in terms of the Christian belief, my relationship with my mom informed a lot of that. I could tell that she had very strong feelings about God, and that these were feelings that I was raised to have too. But I thought it was almost like these were feelings that we were trained to have, like dogs, like the way you would train a dog.
My parents were and have always been really amazing examples of what followers of Christ look like. But we were in a church with extremely wealthy people, and even though the pastor spoke about the risen Christ, I didn't really see that demonstrated in the lives of the people in the church community for the most part.
I grew up in the Deep South, at an evangelical megachurch. I went to school at the church, and then as I got older, it almost felt claustrophobic. Like if there was any questions that a person had, they just kind of got redirected to other things. And I started to have more questions as a teenager. I was mostly into poetry. And I sat around reading Rimbaud and listening to The Cure, and everyone just thought I was weird. I remember my mom asking me if I was on drugs, and I was just like, no, Mom, I like French poetry. So as I got older, like in high school, I started looking for answers outside of the church. Questions like, why is there so much suffering in the world? So I started reading writers like Nietzsche and Kierkegaard, and felt like they had more answers than many of the Christians that I knew.
I was tutoring at an inner city project in Chicago, and I was supposed to be in charge of the junior high girls and help them with their homework and do some sort of little Bible study. The girls really hated me, and then one of the girls said something to me that I'll never forget. She said, you know, you can shut up about that Bible stuff because it doesn't make any sense here. And the only reason that you believe in Jesus is because you're white and you're wealthy and you're safe. And like, if that was me, I would say praise Jesus too, but that's not the way it is here. And my brother's shot dead, and my dad is gone, and my mom's on drugs, and my cousin's trying to rape me, and your God doesn't come down here, and your Jesus doesn't love me, so you can just shut up about it. And that really shook me to the core. Like I wanted to have a faith that was true for every circumstance, in every situation, in every culture.
So as more and more questions evolved, I started to doubt more and more things about the gospel. Looking at scripture, I would say, I'll believe in God when I see fire come down from the heavens and set something on fire. Or I'll believe in the resurrection when I see it with my own eyes, like Thomas. I thought that perhaps there was someone who was named Jesus, and he was a Jewish person who was executed by the Roman Empire, and then he died. And then the followers of him just started making up stories about him, that he came back from the dead, and it was just so much nonsense. It was a way to explain away their own concerns and worries about an encroaching political authority. And once I began to doubt the resurrection, Scriptures itself has its answer. Paul says, if Christ isn't risen, then your faith is futile.
At that point, I'd been in love with Ben for a long, long time. And we just tried to come to what's really true, and we tried to take every aspect of our faith and like test it and prove it in the real world. But for me at least, what it ended up being was just kind of walking away from all of it together. Like if I couldn't believe some of it, then I couldn't believe all of it. And then as I walked away from the faith, the supernatural elements of that story fell apart, and I thought, man, that's really a crazy story. That's really wild. How do people believe that?
My doubt in the resurrection, and it's a struggle I have to this day, is the people who are writing about it in the Gospels, some of them witnessed it, some of them didn't. I mean, it wasn't something that was on the evening news. We don't have video footage of it. There's no empirical evidence in our lives that anything could ever resurrect. It's not only does it seem physically impossible, it seems to fly in the face of everything that we see going on in the world around us. I mean, all of our best efforts as human beings have largely been used in war or in oppressing other people, and to say at the end of the day that we could possibly come back to life, it's almost like, number one, why would you ever want to come back here? And number two, like, how does that even work?
If I couldn't believe in this story, then there wasn't much else I could believe in. You know, I really wanted to help people, and I looked for that in other places and in other religions, and I just ended up kind of seeping into the darkness.
To me, faith, Kierkegaard talks about it as a leap, that like it's a leap into some impossible gulch, and I couldn't even imagine where that rift would be. I couldn't even imagine how it all just seemed like fantasy to me. So I embraced that kind of nihilistic worldview, that existential worldview, and said, life is short, enjoy it while it lasts, enjoy your youth. And I started to do drugs, and I started to drink. I had a lot of suicidal thoughts. It didn't seem like, if life was going to be full of suffering and struggle, I didn't see a reason why it should continue as long as it does. And at the end of the day, I told myself I don't believe in God at all.